Hi viewers, in this video we will continue our line command and we will discuss some more options which we can use in combination with line command. So today's commands are dynamic input mode and ortho mode. In addition to that, we will also cover absolute coordinate system, a relative coordinate system, Cartesian coordinate system and polar coordinate system. So first of all, we have to understand what is dynamic input mode. In order to do that, what we have to do, first of all, we have to see how we can draw a line. So if we want to draw a line, we have to type L and then we have to give the coordinates of first point and coordinates of second point. So and then press enter. So you can see that we have a line which is starting from 0 0 and ending at 5 5. Let's adjust the grid spacing once again, 1 comma 1, and adjust this one also. Okay, so but when we are using dynamic input mode, we are not in the absolute coordinate system, we are actually in a relative coordinate system. So what is the difference between absolute and relative coordinate system? In absolute coordinate system, we always give the coordinates of next point with reference to the origin of our drawing. This is our origin, so let's do an example. For example, if we want to draw this one in absolute coordinate system, what we have to do, we have to start the line command and then enter 0 comma 0 1 comma 1 and let's put 1 comma 3. You can see that this line is not the same as this line. This line has to be vertical, but instead it's a slanted one. So why this is happening? Because by default we are in relative coordinate system. What is relative coordinate system? In relative coordinate system, the point which we give as the next point of line is with the reference to our last point and not with the reference to the origin. So by default, the dynamic input mode is invoked in AutoCAD. So what is dynamic input mode? In dynamic input mode, the relative coordinate system is automatically invoked. So how to see whether the dynamic input mode is invoked or not? What you have to do, you have to go on the bottom right corner and click on the customization button. Here you can see that dynamic input is not shown on this status bar or toolbar. So first of all, we have to click on this dynamic input so that we can see whether the dynamic input mode is on or off. So now you can see that this is the icon for dynamic input mode and it is on at this point of time. It means the coordinates which you give will automatically be converted into a relative coordinate system. Let me just revise the difference between the absolute coordinate system and relative coordinate system. In absolute coordinate system, the point which we give is always with reference to the origin, which is 0 comma 0. This is the origin. Whereas in relative coordinate system, the point or coordinates we give is always with reference to the previous point or previous line. Okay, so in order to clarify this thing, what we have to do, first of all, we have to switch this dynamic input mode off. And now let's draw this rectangle. So in order to draw this rectangle, what we have to do, we have to invoke the line command by typing L and press enter. So the first point is 1, 1. So what we have to do, we just have to write 1, 1. So it means this point 1, 1 is with the reference to this origin. So it means we have to move 1 unit in x-axis and we have to move 1 unit in y-axis. So what's the next point? Next point is 1, 3. So what we have to do, we just have to type 1, 3. So you can see that what happened, we move 2 units in y-axis. Same is the cases here. We moved from 1, 1 mean x1, y1 to x1, y3. There is no movement in x-axis, whereas there is a movement of 2 units in y-axis. That's why this y coordinate is changed from 1 to 3. So now we have to go to this point. So we have to compare the x and y coordinates. The x coordinate is changed from 1 to 4. It means there is a movement of 3 units in x axis, whereas there is no movement in y axis because the y coordinate is same, which is 3. So now we have to give the coordinate of this third point as 4, 3. Okay, so now we have to move to this point. The coordinate is 4, 1. So now we have to close this polygon, or you can say rectangle. So in line command we have an option named as close. We can click on this close in order to join our first point and the end point, or we can simply type C, which is the capital blue alphabet here, to close this diagram. So this is absolute coordinate system. If we want to do the same in relative coordinate system, what we will do, the start point will always remains the same, which is 1, 1. So we will start our line command and type 1, 1. But now in relative coordinate system, we have to see where we want to go and what's the difference between the end point and the start point. So we have to move from 1, 1 to 1, 3. So while doing so, we are not moving in x-axis because on this point the x coordinate is 1 and on this point the x coordinate is 1. So it means there is zero movement in x-axis, whereas there is a movement of 2 units in y-axis. So what we will do, we have to write at the rate and type 0, 2 and press enter. So see, we are getting the same result. It means if we have to do the relative coordinate system, first of all we have to write at the rate sign before writing the coordinate system, and then we have to go to the third point. Once again we have to see what how many units we have to move in x coordinate and x-axis and y-axis. So now look at this point. Now this is the initial point. We have to measure this point, the third point, with the reference to this point, not with the reference to the origin, So we have to move from 1 to 4 in x-axis, which means the x coordinate will be 3, and we have to move from 3 to 3 in y coordinate. It means we have to move 0 units in y-axis. So what we will write at the rate 3, 0 and press enter. So you can see that now we have 3 points available on the rectangle. For the fourth, or for this point, a third point. So first of all, we have to compare the x and y coordinates. The x and y coordinates of start point and end point of the line are same. It means we have to move 0 units in an x-axis. Now we have to compare the y coordinates of start point and end point. The y coordinates are changing from 3 to 1. It means we have to move minus 2 units in y-axis. So the coordinates will be at the rate 0 comma minus 2. So now either we can write the coordinates or we can type C to close this rectangle. So this is the difference between the absolute coordinate system and relative coordinate system. The type of relative coordinate system we discuss in this example is Cartesian relative coordinate system, in which we give x and y coordinates. There is another relative coordinate system known as polar coordinate system, in which we give the distance and angle. In order to learn the relative polar coordinate system, we will do another example. Now look at this example. We have to draw this line. The start point of this line is 1, 1, whereas the end point of the line is not given as x and y coordinates. Instead, we have two other informations given about this line, which are the length of the line and the angle of this line with respect to x-axis. So in this scenario, what we can do, we can use the relative polar coordinate system to draw this line. So let's start it. First of all, we have to clear this drawing area. Control A for select all and then delete. So now we have to invoke the line command. We have to give the start point. Start point in absolute and relative coordinate system always remains the same. So this start point will be 1, 1, and now we have to give the length and angle of the line with respect to x-axis. The length of the line is 5, whereas angle of this line with respect to x-axis is 30 degrees. Since we are doing this in relative coordinate system, so what we have to do, we have to type at the rate first, and then we have to type the length of the line followed by its angle. In order to give the angle value, first of all we have to type less than sign and then give the value of angle, which is 30 degree, and press enter. So now you can see that we have a line which is of 5 units and making an angle of 30 degree with x-axis, and this line is starting from 1, 1. So in order to verify, we can see the dimension of this line, which is 5 units. We will discuss how to dimension the lines in our next lectures. So this is all about the dynamic input mode, absolute coordinate system and a relative coordinate system. So now we move to the ortho mode. What is ortho mode? In order to understand the ortho mode, we have to see, or we have to do this example once again. So in the previous attempts to do this drawing, what we do, we actually give x and y coordinates of each and every point. In ortho mode, what we can do, we can only draw either vertical or horizontal lines, number one, and number two, we just have to give the value of one coordinate. Okay, so how to invoke the ortho mode? In order to invoke the ortho mode, we just have to click on this button, which is at the bottom, restrict cursor orthogonally. So we just have to switch it on by left clicking it. So now the ortho mode is on. It means now we can only draw lines in horizontal or vertical direction. So let's do this example once again. First of all, we have to invoke the line command. So we have to give the first coordinate, which is 1, 1, and then you can see that our cursor can only move either horizontally or vertically. So if we want to give this point, what we have to do, we just have to see how much we have to move in the y-axis. You can see that we have to move from 1 unit to 3 units. It means we just have to move 2 units in y-axis. So what we will do, we will just type 2 and enter. The line is already drawn. So now for this point we have to move 3 units from value 1 to value 4. It means we just have to type 3 and press enter. So now we have to move in downward direction. So we have to move the cursor in the downward y-axis direction and type 2. Why 2? Because we have to move from 3 to 1 units on y-axis. So now what we have to do, we have to move from 4 to 1. It means minus 3 in x-axis. So we will just direct the arrow in the negative x-axis and type minus 3, press enter. So you can see that it's not going in the right direction, or we draw the line which is not correct. So in order to erase this line, what we can do, either we can click on this undo button, or we can type simply U and enter. So now the previous line is removed, but we are still in the line command. Since we already give the direction, so if we give minus 3, what it will do, it will reverse the direction. Since the direction is already given, so we just have to give the magnitude, which is 3, and press enter. So in this way you can use the ortho mode of the AutoCAD 2019, which is generally used in combination with line command. Thank you very much.